It's been reported that there are nearly 30 to 40 million slaves in the world today. There are more slaves today than there were during the entire 400 years of the transatlantic slave trade. And when we say the word slaves, we're talking about men, women, and children who are being bought and sold for sex, for labor, entering into child marriages. These are human beings who are being taken advantage of, who are being treated like property just for the sake of $1. Human trafficking is the second largest global industry after oil. Those numbers can be really intimidating and they can feel overwhelming. And there are times when we hear statistics like that and we just want to plug our ears and forget that this is a reality for so many people across the world. My guests today, Wendy Dailey, the co-founder and president of, and Michelle Bridgeman, the head of distribution for Purpose Jewelry and International Sanctuary, were wrecked a few years ago when they traveled abroad and began to learn about the realities of the human trafficking industry. And again, instead of just sitting by and saying that somebody should do something about that, they decided to do something about that. International Sanctuary is a nonprofit that has sanctuaries all over the world that are rescuing women out of the human trafficking industry and giving them an opportunity at a second life, whether that's through rehabilitation, counseling, education, and a stable income. They're able to provide for their families and they're able to start over and start fresh after experiencing more trauma than any of us could even imagine. My conversation today with Michelle and Wendy was such an honor. It was such a pleasure. And I felt so encouraged to hear their hearts for what they are doing to take part in being a part of the solution for ending human trafficking. Welcome to Business with Purpose. I'm your host, Molly Stillman of stillbeingmolly.com, and this show is all about bringing you the stories behind the brands, companies, and small businesses that are changing the world. Each week, I interview an entrepreneur, a CEO, nonprofit director, community leader, or just all-around amazing person who is trying to make a positive impact not only through their personal life, but also with their professional career. My goal is to show you that no matter what you do for a living, you can make an impact right where you are. Now on to the show and enjoy this chat with Wendy and Michelle. Hey, Wendy and Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Molly.
I am so excited to have you both here on the show. You guys are both from Purpose Jewelry, and Purpose is one of my favorite jewelry companies. And so I'm so excited to hear both of your stories. Michelle, I actually got to meet you and I met in person at the end of June when you were here in the Raleigh area for the Flourish Market's Nourish event. And it was just so awesome hearing your story. And I was like, I have to have you guys on the podcast because I want everybody to just hear the amazing work that you guys are doing and the artisans that you're empowering and the work that you guys are doing with International Sanctuary. So I'm honored to have you guys here today.
Oh, thanks, Molly.
It's an honor to be here.
Oh, awesome. Well, to kick off, I want you guys to both give us the Wendy and the Michelle 101. So whoever wants to go first, I'm going to have you guys just kind of share your story, a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of get into what Purpose Jewelry is, what International Sanctuary is, and how it's kind of all intertwined and interconnected.
Sure, I'll start. Wendy Dailey. I'm the co-founder and president of Purpose Jewelry and International Sanctuary. I'm a California native and went to school at Pepperdine University and graduated from there and got my teaching credential. I taught second and third grade for about 5 years. And before millennials bounced around and kind of changed career jobs every 2 to 3 years, I'd been teaching for about 5 years and just got the itch to get out of the classroom and went on a mission trip to India where I met our founder, Stephanie, and just my whole world turned upside down. And I went off to Cambodia and lived for a year teaching English to an orphan care rescue agency. And that's where I saw trafficking firsthand. And that's really where my passion was birthed.
Yeah. Yeah. So you, when you went to India, was it initially just a short-term mission trip? Was this something that you'd always wanted to do? Was it something that you were like, I think it'll be a fun opportunity? What was your initial goal when you went to India? And like you said, just kind of everything changed for you at that point.
Yeah, it was all of the above. It was a short trip with the church. It was just a short mission, kind of poverty, your basic feeding the hungry and medical missions and, education for children and things. But I always had a real global heart and just really had a passion for different cultures. And so from that point, I just felt that like the horizons opened up for me.
Absolutely. Michelle, I would love for you to kind of share your story and eventually what led you to how you connected with Wendy and International Sanctuary and Purpose.
Yeah. So Molly, I think, know a little bit about this from when I talked at Newish event, but basically I grew up in Southern California and was living in definitely a bubble and didn't really know about anything about trafficking. And even in school through college, I didn't really hear much about it. No one was really talking about it at that time. And so it was kind of off my radar. And so I graduated with a business marketing degree and was just ready to kind of take on corporate world and kind of make my way up in a company and kind of rise to the top and make a lot of money. And that was just kind of my ideal job like after college. And so I started actually working for a travel company right after college, and it was where it was basically tours all across Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and the US. And it was kind of through that job that I started traveling a lot and just kind of really experiencing the world around me. And my eyes were just being opened up to a lot of different just social justice issues and just seeing how different cultures, how it was to be in different cultures. And so that was really eye-opening for me. And basically I kind of came to a point in my life where I realized I wanted to do more and I wanted to kind of explore a little bit more around the world, and decided to actually to do kind of like Wendy, a short-term mission trip through my church to South Africa. Mm-hmm. And then after kind of experiencing what a mission trip was, I decided to do something more extreme, and I traveled the world for a whole year and basically like lived out of a backpack. And it was on that year-long trip that I was exposed to human trafficking in Southeast Asia area. And I was blown away. I mean, I had no idea, and I was just kind of walking through red light districts and just being so just exposed to this injustice. And I knew deep down that it was going to change my life from that point on. And so I came back from that trip and knew I wanted to still live in Southern California. And so I started looking for organizations that were local, that were doing something about the issue. And that's when I came across International Sanctuary. And it was at that time when it was just still pretty new, and they didn't have a lot of support as far as staff-wise. So I just started as a volunteer and kind of jumped in with the marketing and kind of sales background. And now I've been here ever since, which is like 5.5 years ago.
That's amazing. And I'm not going to lie, I would love to hear, like, we could probably do a whole podcast of you just sharing stories of things you learned and saw on a whole year of traveling the world. I mean, that's basically like a bucket list item for so many people. And I bet there's just a bunch of things that you could share of your time traveling the world. So Wendy,
many stories.
Oh, I bet. So Wendy, for people that don't know and aren't as familiar with Purpose Jewelry and International Sanctuary, tell us a little bit about first what International Sanctuary is, what they do, and how Purpose Jewelry is both connected to and a part of it, but also kind of separate, and but they all sort of work together.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, International Sanctuary was founded in 2007, so we're coming up on our 10th year.
Woohoo! That's awesome.
We empower girls and women to rebuild their lives and embrace their true identity and worth. And we do that through our sanctuary centers. And we are based right now in Mumbai, India, Kampala, Uganda, Tijuana, Mexico, and then we also have one in the United States based in Orange County, California. And our model is really through the power of the social enterprise, and that is that we walk through the first phase of establishing a sanctuary, and that is to invite survivors into a job. And for a girl or a young woman who has been traumatized and has been a victim of trafficking, to enter into a relationship through employment and a job is dignifying. It gives her work, a paycheck, and it's a non-threatening way to enter into relationship for them to start to heal and build those bonds and relationships that are in a positive way. And from there, the sanctuary grows, and we start with just a small cohort of 10 young women, and then from there, they learn from each other. We establish a safe, healing workplace and community. We start with a really strong culture, and then add 10 girls after the 3-month training period so that they can learn from each other. And after 24 months, we have a sustainable model that is working with approximately 30 girls and are producing about 56,000 pieces. And from there, the sustainable sanctuary is able to provide them with medical care, assistance, education, counseling, and add the additional services that they need in order to really holistically step into their future and rebuild their lives.
I think the model that you guys have set up is such an example for that I think so many organizations could take, because you really look at it in a holistic way rather than just going in and, there's no handouts. There's no just, Band-Aids. You're really looking to figure out, ways to offer these women and these girls. That's the reality of human trafficking, is so many of these victims are, they're children. They're children. And so you're giving them an opportunity to, get an education and get their lives back, because I think that is something that we can sometimes forget when we hear about human trafficking and we hear about the injustices that are happening. We forget that these are real women. These are real girls who have been completely traumatized, and they're dealing with a lot of stuff that is very heavy and very deep, and a lot of scars, both emotionally and physically and spiritually, that they have to work through. And so to get that support and those resources can be, literally life-saving.
Yes. Yes.
So how did you guys decide to, because your first sanctuary center was in Mumbai, is that correct?
Right. Yes.
So what was I know that your initial mission trip and when you got connected to Stephanie was in India. Tell us a little bit about that early process for when you first got started and you launched that first sanctuary center.
Sure. Well, I was, relatively young and, 28 years old, had really nothing to lose. I moved in with Stephanie's family, and she was out in India teaching the girls how to make jewelry because that's something she enjoyed doing. The vision initially was to purchase products that were being made and make them available to the Western market to open up economic streams of revenue for girls to rebuild their lives. The challenge was that they were not making anything that was marketable value. I remember distinctly one of the aftercare home mothers showing me this craft project that was literally a replica of like a second grade art project, a snowman made out of cotton balls. And I'm like, look how cute this is. And I'm like, I can't sell that. Oh, no. So, Stephanie worked on a few different trial and errors, candle making and tailoring projects, but jewelry was really what stuck. Because it's something that, she was the teacher and, she continued to show up and the girls continued to learn jewelry. And so she would send the jewelry to me in the States, and I would, very grassroots effort, just, go around to events and churches and schools that would have us and share the story and sell the jewelry. And at that point, the jewelry was not very good, but people believed in the cause and were horrified to be learning at this time when there was very minimal awareness around trafficking. They were very eager to support. And, I say all this to say that we didn't really understand the model that we were building, but we knew that these girls needed help. And I believed in the work we were doing. And the work with survivors of trafficking, healing is a lifetime.
Yes.
And so 5 years in, it took 5 years just to start seeing the fruit of some of those relationships and some of those girls to realize that we weren't going away, and that, just to form those healthy, safe, trusting relationships where they can open up and just really have their lives changed. So confession-wise, I jumped in and I thought we would fail, but I had very little to lose. So, and then 5 years in, I go, oh, okay, we're onto something, and God is really blessing this. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there are so many entrepreneurs that share that same sentiment.
Yeah, a lot of those same girls that started with us from the beginning, they're still with us. And Stephanie had, our Sunita, who was Stephanie's translator, right when Stephanie was starting in India and just was figuring it all out. And she got this translator, and her name was Sunita. And she now, 11 years later, she's head of basically operations, right? Basically over in India. So it's just really a testament to, we dove in, and we were there for the long haul.
Absolutely. Now you have these sanctuary centers. The overarching organization is International Sanctuary. Where did Purpose Jewelry come in?
Yeah, that was launched about 3 years ago. And the differentiation in the brand was really for it to operate on its own, as far as just in trade shows and just in the retail space. We found that a lot of the wholesalers and just a lot of customers, they were buying the jewelry because it was beautiful, not necessarily as a pity purchase. And International Sanctuary and the whole entire cause around the efforts behind trafficking was getting in the way of the brand itself. And so to allow clarity and allow for the jewelry to stand on its own, we just renamed it. It's simply a DBA, and we've seen a lot of success in that. And then obviously with all of our efforts, it's all under the International Sanctuary umbrella, under the nonprofit. Yeah,
with the name Purpose, it just, the customer immediately knows that there's something deeper behind just this cute, trendy jewelry. And we've had a lot of people come up to us at events or trade shows and just literally come up and say, Purpose Jewelry, what? They want to know. They're curious. What does it mean? What's the purpose behind it? So I think that it's been a really strong name to kind of stand out amongst the rest.
I completely agree. And I was going to say, for you, Michelle, as somebody who's, you're in charge of the marketing, and that's also, you have this interesting balance to strike where, and I don't think in a bad way, I think in a good way, where you're looking to get the brand out there and you're thinking the business wise, but then you're also being really intentional about how do we share this story, because there is so much more to this than just beautiful jewelry. Yes, it's beautiful jewelry that is they're classic pieces. You guys are really, your style, the aesthetic is very very classic, very almost, minimalist design, the kind of jewelry that you can wear every day, but also dress up. It's a very, it's something that can stand on its own, and regardless of the story behind it, would sell because it's beautiful. But then you also have this added layer of it's made by survivors and of human trafficking. And there's so much more to it that, when you're buying a piece of this jewelry, you're providing a job, you're providing an opportunity, you're providing a second chance for somebody. So how do you, as the marketing person, what is your goal every day to balance that, from being a smart, business savvy, and then also thinking about the greater purpose behind all of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely been, like you're saying, really, I think when we branded the jewelry to be called Purpose, we did a lot on the branding front of, with its own website, its own social media, very image driven, very, we wanted people to see like the beauty of the jewelry and to kind of get behind the style and kind of see how, they could wear it with different things or, get bloggers, lifestyle, fashion, all these people to kind of wear it and support it. But it's really that there's that, you have to make that strong, but you have to always go back to the fact that, like you're saying, there's this added component, this added layer. And there's a lot of even just education that has had to happen with us just educating consumers about it's not just a give back brand. We're not just donating a certain percentage back to give to these women as a handout or to give to another organization. We actually are the organization, and we are doing so much more. It starts with the job, which is obviously through the jewelry, which is really tangible, but also we're doing all these other program components that really holistically help these women heal. And so it really is this fine balance that we've had to kind of create. And when we're speaking, I mean, we have two different, almost different target demographics where, I mean, with International Sanctuary, there's we have a lot of donors that are a certain demographic, I would say, and we have a certain language that we speak to them, but also with our shoppers, that looks a little different too, where we have to not overwhelm them with all the information of trafficking and all the statistics. And, there's so much within the issue of trafficking that it's giving them bite-sized information so that it kind of leaves them wanting more. And if they want to go kind of be more intense with their research and kind of get more into, okay, what does this actually look like? There's that opportunity for them, but we don't want to like overwhelm them, if that makes sense.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
So it really is this balance that we've had to strike. And, we're also trying to figure out ways to kind of intersect the two too, with donors and with shoppers, and really getting them to see like shopping is the first step. Yes. And we need that. We need, the jewelry to be sold, obviously, but there is so much more that the customer can actually do too. Whether they want to support us financially, like on a monthly basis, or if they want to click that, hey, give $10 to our new sanctuary at checkout, there's a lot more that they can choose to get involved with.
As far as the Purpose jewelry sales, that really goes to help maintain the existing sanctuaries and the girls that we are serving. But the capital required to launch a new sanctuary is approximately $150,000. So every single donation that comes in helps us go to reach new girls that we haven't served yet. And so our vision is to expand to 10 sanctuaries globally by 2020. So we're aggressively chasing after that.
Okay, let's take a quick break from talking with Wendy and Michelle, and let me tell you about the sponsor of today's show. If you have been a listener of the show for a while, you may remember episode 25, where my guest was Liza Moiseva. She is the founder of Globin. Globin is our sponsor today and is the only fair trade verified subscription box company that empowers artisans around the world through job creation and fair wages. I have multiple Globin artisan boxes and they are amazing. Every single one is so unique and curated with these beautiful selections of handmade and ethically produced home goods, beauty finds, and wearable accessories. Each box has gorgeous and unique pieces like hand-painted ceramics from Morocco, hand-blown glassware from Mexico, or handmade jewelry from India. I actually have these beautiful hand-blown wine glasses from Mexico that I got in one of my artisan boxes, and they are stunning. Every single time I have guests over to the house, people comment on how beautiful they are. They have this almost iridescent shimmer to them on the outside that when they hit the light, there's this rainbow effect, but they're also really solid, really well made. They hold up well. And like I said, they are just beautiful and people always comment on them. And I have to say, since we are approaching the holiday season, which is crazy, Globin also offers corporate gifts. Imagine how much more meaningful your holiday gifts to your employees, your clients, or even your colleagues would be with a Globin artisan box. You can use the coupon code MOLLY for $10 off any Artisan Box premium subscription. You can go to globin.com/box for more details. That's Globin, GLOBEIN.com/box with the coupon code MOLLY for $10 off. And if you haven't heard that episode about Globin, go back and check out episode 25 with Liza Moiseva to learn more about this amazing company. Now, let's get back to the conversation with Wendy and Michelle. I think I shared this with you when I met you, Michelle. But so I do a lot of work with human trafficking. This is an issue. This is a topic that I'm really passionate about. I have worked with a local nonprofit here in the Triangle region of North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham, called Transforming Hope. Actually, for those of you that are listeners of the podcast, you may remember back in February of 2017, I had Abby Tenalia from Transforming Hope Ministries on here we actually had her on End It Day, where everybody did the red X on their hands, and so we just talked a lot.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah,
Awesome.
so we talked a lot about human trafficking and what that looks like both internationally and domestically, because there is this misconception that, when I talk to people, and you guys probably, I'm sure, know this as well and experience this, when you work in this field where you're surrounded by information and statistics and people and survivors and all that kind of stuff with human trafficking, it can be really easy to forget that there are still a lot of people that don't understand that this is happening and that this is happening here in the United States as well. People always think, well, oh, that's the kind of thing that just happens in India. That happens in Cambodia. That doesn't happen in the United States, when actually it does. And I know California, it's either California or Texas is the number one state for trafficking. I can't remember if it's California or Texas.
There's actually a national circuit. And so, unfortunately, it's just horrifying how prevalent it is across our nation.
Absolutely. North Carolina ranks 10th out of the 50 states. So, this is one of those things that, I can talk about a lot because I think it's important. And I also do work with my church and we have a community in Kenya that we work with, and we're just starting to kind of expand and in Kenya and work more with trafficking victims there. And it's a very complex issue, and it looks very differently both domestically and internationally. And so since you guys have the sanctuary now in Orange County in California, I'd love for you to kind of share what your experience has been, launching a domestic sanctuary and what that looks like and how that is different than, for example, your sanctuary in Mumbai or Kampala.
Yeah, it is very different, and the economics around it are different. 17,500 people are trafficked into the U.S. each year. And so those are foreign people that are trafficked in the U.S. That's not even counting the statistics around Americans and American youth, and that the average girl entering the sex trade is 13 years old. Yeah. So we've served women from all walks of life at our sanctuary in Orange County, coming from Ethiopia, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, South America, Americans. The model is different in that they work within the distribution. And so they pack and ship all the online orders. They prepare the product for resale. They prep all our events and trunk shows. But it's still, the beauty of it is that the power of the transformation, and that our sanctuary doors are open to people of all walks of life. And they enter, the first 3 months in the first trimester, you'll see they're, very timid, really terrified, just applying for the job. And, they are accepted and they get the job. I remember one of our first ladies, she goes, I got the job. Aww. She was so precious. But, it's the power of the relationship, and God just works, and they're in a safe, healing workplace where they're free to make mistakes, and they are in an environment where they can learn and grow. And there is incredible dignity in that. And there is incredible dignity in being able to have a job and be employed and learn and be a contributing member in your community. And so that, after 12 months with some of the women that we see here, I'm a new woman. I mean, I just, for them to be able to, one of our young ladies, she came in at 18 and, getting her education and, she comes in driving with her driver's license. And then next thing this isn't over a course of a year. This is obviously several years, but she, bought a car and she's on her own and financially independent. And we're, supporting her as a family would, walking her with those steps in life. But it's just really beautiful.
I am curious to know, do you guys partner with, how do you find these girls? I mean, I guess more specifically domestically, but I guess I'd also be interested to know kind of how you have set up the sanctuaries internationally. How do you get referrals for survivors? Do you guys work internationally or domestically? Do you work with the FBI? Do you work with local law enforcement? I'd love to kind of know what that process looks like.
Sure. Yeah. In trafficking terms, you say that we would work in aftercare, and our model is really contingent upon partnerships. It is all, we can't do our component if we don't have strong partners alongside us.
Yeah.
And so typically, girls are rescued or escape a trafficking situation, are placed in a shelter, and then what? So for us in the U.S., we're part of a coalition, the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force, that is supported by law enforcement, absolutely FBI, and as you mentioned, social workers, community service programs, faith-based ministries, churches, and local businesses that are trying to come together to fight trafficking. It's a really great collaboration of efforts in the community. And so social workers will refer survivors to us for our program. And then that is very similar to international efforts where, for example, in Uganda, the partner came to us, and, same thing with the Philippines, where they're waiting for us to come. And they've asked us to say, please come and give our girls jobs because they need to have financial freedom to be able to rebuild their lives. And so that just, we work directly alongside them, and they typically provide residential, and we provide the employment piece.
That's amazing. And I just think that I think it's so powerful when you see organizations come together and they don't try to reinvent the wheel of what somebody else is doing. They see, what are our needs? What are the strengths of this organization or that group or that person over there? And they come together and say, how can we all work together to accomplish the same goal? Like, we all have the same goal and we all do different things. So how can we collaborate together?
Yes. And I'll say that's really the driving force of our expansion plan and our vision to expand to 10 globally by 2020. And it's simply obviously based on the need, but the need generated by the invitation from partners saying, please come, we need your program.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'd love to know, and you guys can both I would love for you to both share sort of what your experience has been. Wendy, obviously yours is going to look very different than what Michelle's will be, as Wendy is the founder and Michelle, really working in marketing and coming alongside, especially now for over 5 years, as you kind of just came on as a volunteer and then you realized that this was really your passion. Along the way, as you guys have learned, sort of the process and the vision and just really listening to God, how do you balance making decisions based on what is best for the organization, what is best for purpose, and what is best for the artisans, while also listening to, to God? Because sometimes that, and I ask that question very specifically because I know you guys are faith-based, and I'm a believer, and this is something that I've tried to implement in my own life and in my own business, and it can be really hard and really challenging to run a business and look at the numbers daily and look at what is the next goal or what's the next thing I need to do, while also taking time to kind of be quiet and listen to where's God leading me? What's God telling me that I need to do next? And I know, especially in the industry that you guys are in, this is such a balance that needs to be found, and it's tough. So I'd love for you to kind of share, what is your thought process on things, and how do you look at the bottom line and look at the day-to-day while also being open to the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, and it's something that I feel like I'm still not great or perfect or close to perfect with yet.
None of us are. None of us
I
are.
wish I could say I was, had it all figured out, but I think just ever since, I know for a fact that God really was the one who pointed me to not only this issue with human trafficking, but led me to this organization. And I can't explain it any other way. I mean, it still blows my mind at how I was able to finally come to this place and to be here for so many years now and just see the growth every year. And it's honestly been very, I think we look back and we say, oh my gosh, how did we do this? We started, we had such little, in revenue and sales, we had such little to go off of. We had no data. We were just trying to figure it out, literally just taking whatever sale we could, however we could. And it kind of, sort of really evolved as time went on, and it was God growing it, completely. And so I think I really started to, and it's hard to have that balance of we all are so passionate about what we do and we care so much. And ultimately, my heart is for these women that we're serving. But it's hard when you get in the day-to-day of the business, like you're saying, and my whole world at this job is very much product driven. And so, you can easily get caught up in, okay, the sales need to be this, and I need to be putting in, over 40 hours a week because otherwise it's not going to get done and we're not going to grow. But I think really just, it's those points where I think I've learned, and I'm still not great at it, but really involving God in even the little decisions and really praying and asking him to kind of impart wisdom as far as, okay, should we take this partnership? Should I invest my time here in trying to get this retailer or to, have this intern come on? All sorts of decisions, but it really is I feel like when I do that and I do kind of take that time to pray and to listen, and he really kind of guides it and really provides more insight. And he also just allows things to open up that I don't even understand how. So I think it's ultimately letting him guide it and not being so, yes, we have our plans and yes, we have our goals, but also being open to where he's leading and realizing that he can make things happen, that we're just here to be used by him. So even just these expansion partners and just the growth as the organization, as a whole, it just really is him kind of doing that. And so when we get caught up in our day-to-day, it's just take a step back and really look at what he's done and what he's going to continue to do and just trusting him in that.
Absolutely. I love that answer.
I love that answer too, Michelle. She said it. That's a tough one. I've got 2 little ones at home, 2 and 4, and balance, I don't know that word. So, I think for many of the early years before we even had any staff or employees, it was just running around chasing every single bunny trail. And especially in the startup years, it's not sure what I would advise to new folks, because startup is just startup and you've just got to get it done. But just like Michelle said, having that time to listen every day and just really listen moment by moment and just surrendering, just really acknowledging that your efforts are only efforts and we really don't have control. I don't know how many, no matter what I try to do at the end of it, I can't control the outcome. So
I am with you, Wendy. I have 2 young kids too, 4, and my daughter's 4, and my son is 18 months. So I completely understand. Yeah, it's there's like people are always like balance. I'm like, what is that? What is that word? What is this word that you speak of? I don't understand. It's like most of the days I feel like I'm a hamster in a hamster wheel, and I'm just kind of like, you just make it work, and it's okay. But I love what you both said about looking at taking the time to look at what God has done and kind of praising him for that and sitting in that moment, because this is something that I have really been trying to do better with this year, because I think it can be so easy, and I feel like I have this conversation with entrepreneurs and people in general all the time, of it can be so easy to look at where we want to be and what are our goals that we have not yet reached. Or we can look at, this other company or this other small business or this other brand or this other person and see what they're doing and compare ourselves. And especially women, we are so guilty of this. And instead, we forget to just stop and look at where we've come from. And I've been really trying to be more intentional about this year, because when I think about where I want to go, and sometimes I can get frustrated that I'm like, oh man, I have this goal that I want to reach, or I want to do this, and I'm not there yet. But then I think about, well, I'm exactly where I wanted to be 5 years ago. So why am I upset right now? Yes, I'm not where I want to be, but that's because my goals 5 years ago weren't those goals that I have now. Instead, my goals 5 years ago are where I am right now, or
it's true.
Or maybe they're a little different because they worked out, in God's timing and in God's plans. And it can be so hard and so frustrating as entrepreneurs to sometimes just stop and slow down and just think about, and like for you, Wendy, when you first met Stephanie and you were in India and it's like International Sanctuary and Purpose Jewelry are basically like a fleck of an idea, and you're just kind of answering the call, and you just took that one step of, okay, well, we're going to launch this one sanctuary and we're going to just go from there. And so, but now look at you, and now look at the lives that you're impacting, but I know, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or thoughts in your brain, but when you're thinking about your goal of having 10 sanctuaries by 2020, and sometimes that can probably feel overwhelming. And I guess I just want to say this as an encouragement to you that, if the place that you all have been able to get to, and the lives that you've been able to impact it, and just the pace that you're setting and the influence that you're having in this industry in general, and the work that you're doing to end human trafficking right where you are, is so powerful. And look at where you've come in 10 years. And so to think about the goal that you have for 2020, I guess I just want to encourage you that, on those days that it feels really hard and really overwhelming, and are we going to be able to reach this goal, that, that just you're doing the right thing because you're taking that next step that's right in front of you.
Thank you so much, Molly. That means so much.
Thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. If I can
just respond to what you were saying
Absolutely.
about the comparison, especially for entrepreneurs that, with social media and press and all the publications and things that are out there, it's so easy to look at the external publication and measure that as success.
Yeah.
And we just don't know. Things aren't always what they seem. And, internally, you just can't measure yourself with that standard. And, over the years, if we were published here, or if we were, there, and it's like so many times those things come and go, and those are not, they're very fleeting, and it's not at all what it doesn't define you. It doesn't define success. You've got to be faithful with what God is requiring of you, and really listening to, constantly listening to see if, just day to day, moment by moment, to listen to see what he wants and what he requires of us.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I was listening to a podcast earlier, and somebody called Instagram is everybody's prom night. I was like, I loved that.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Yeah.
you are so right. Instagram's everyone's prom night. Everyone looks their best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I just loved that analogy. I was like, I'm using that. I'm using that.
Yes.
That's awesome. I'm filing that away for later. Well, as we wrap up here, guys, I would love for you both, and Michelle, I know that you shared some of this at Nourish, and so this is obviously, we're airing this show in here at the end of September, and so I want you guys to just kind of share what is on the docket, if you will, for Purpose and International Sanctuary here in this last half of 2017, and what can people look forward to, and what are you guys hoping to do here in the rest of the year and into 2018?
Yeah, so I would say on the Purpose jewelry front, we have a lot of exciting new things happening coming into the fall season. We, on October 2nd, are launching our Purpose Premier Collection, which is all 14 karat and sterling silver plated pieces that are going to be in really gorgeous packaging and more the minimalistic pieces that you can really wear every day and not even have to worry about that, just keeping them on, because the quality is there. And if you're sensitive to metals, or you haven't been able to wear some of our other pieces just more because of that, this is your chance to kind of check it out and be able to purchase when you maybe wanted to before, but you couldn't. So that is really exciting. We've actually been wanting to do this for a few years, and we're finally able to kind of roll it out. And we're going to do just a lot of fun marketing around it and press around it. And Molly, we got to get you some pieces.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's really exciting. And kind of right when we launched that collection, we're also we're basically restructuring our online store a little bit to be tiered collection. So it'll be the Premier Collection, and then it'll be an on-trend collection, which is just kind of our normal pieces that you see that are the base metal, that are the fashion jewelry, that are really, more of the statement kind of trendy pieces. And then we're also introducing a third collection, which is called Hope. And basically, it's the pieces that our new artisans are kind of first trained on making. So it'll be kind of more of the like beaded pieces, and they're not going to be 100% perfect. They're just going to be all uniquely made, but still great quality. And it'll just, I think, get shoppers to really see kind of the story of how it really goes when we open a sanctuary, and how the girls they're trained, and they kind of work their way up in skill. And so we're really excited about all this. It's going to be, right in time for holiday, and it'll be great for gift giving. And again, we're going to put a lot into it. And I think, all of us internally are really, really excited about it. So yeah, it should be really, really cool.
I'm so excited. Yeah, when you shared that news at the Nourish event, I was like, yes, I cannot wait to see what they look like.
That's awesome.
What about you, Wendy?
We are celebrating our 10th year, September 17th, and really excited about that. We're raising $150,000 to open a new sanctuary. So really looking forward to the end of this calendar year, just with the holiday, our 10th season. I remember year one, going around to every event and bazaar, kind of community sale at every elementary school with Stephanie, 18 shows in 40 days. And, here we're shooting for $1 million in sales this year. So it's very exciting. And then just launching January and kicking off with our 2 new sanctuaries this next coming year, looking at the fundraising for most likely Cambodia and the Philippines.
That is amazing. Well, I will absolutely be just standing here cheering you guys on and praying for you guys, and I cannot wait to see.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that there are so many people that just love what you guys are doing, and just you have a lot of people in your corner. I mean, you obviously you have the most important one. You've got God in your corner, but you really do have a lot of people here on the ground just cheering you guys on. And so I can't wait to see everything that you guys continue to do. And thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your story and sharing all about International Sanctuary and Purpose. And it was truly a pleasure.
Thanks,
Molly.
It's our pleasure too.
I hope you love this episode with Wendy and Michelle. I had the best time talking with them, and they really encouraged me to just keep going and keep fighting, because even if you're making an impact on one person or 10 people, when you start small, that ripple effect really can change communities, and it can change the world. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you are a first-time listener of the show, welcome. Be sure to visit the archives for past shows featuring amazing entrepreneurs and business owners who are literally changing the world with their businesses. And if you're a regular listener of the show, thank you for tuning in week in and week out, and thank you for your support. Be sure to head on over to iTunes, Stitcher, Radio Public, wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you are subscribed to the show. Clicking that subscribe button helps to make sure that you never miss an episode of the podcast. And while you're there, would you mind just taking a minute and leaving a review of the show? Leaving a review of the show helps me to know what you're liking and how the show is personally impacting you. Reviews also help to show other listeners what the show's really all about. And if you share the show on social media, be sure to use the hashtag Business with Purpose Podcast, or tag me at Still Being Molly on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Thank you again to our sponsor of today's show, Globin. Again, be sure to visit globin.com/box and use the code Molly for $10 off your premium subscription. Now, this show is edited by my amazing husband and executive producer, John Stillman, and the music is by Mark Killian of Third Wheel Media. Thank you so much for listening, and go do something good with purpose on purpose.